Right, so as you know, I have used all of my EMDR sessions on all of the triggers that I had in my last relationship. And then the relationship came to an end, and I was using that ending to work out what is it in me that attracted that type of character. That I'm grateful for all those triggers so that I could take them to my therapy sessions and I could look at what it is in me, because you can only ever look at what it is in you. I mean, you don't have to. You can just point the finger and say, you're doing this, you're doing that. But ultimately, you're never going to change then. You're never going to learn. You're never going to grow. Everybody in your life is in your life for a reason, to teach you things, right? And so I'm really grateful for all these lessons that this person taught me. And even in her departure, there was another lesson there. And I was feeling a bit rejected because she left me and I wasn't able to leave her. But I was grateful that she left me because I felt so stuck and I was unable to leave her. And I was like, what is this in me that attracted this type of character, and why couldn't I leave? And it was the rescuer in me. The penny dropped, and a lot of things in this relationship actually triggered me to my relationship with my eldest daughter. Now, when I had my daughter when she was a teenager, when we struggled the most, I was also a child. I was in my 20s, and in your 20s, you are still a child. If you're having a teenager in your 20s, you are a child. You're only just beyond being a teenager yourself. Most people who have children might have them in their 20s, but they've got babies. So you're at least in your 30s before you've got an actual teenager. So I don't have any regrets. I don't have any guilt. I don't have shame about my parenting. I did the best that I could with the resources I had at the time. But I now know better. And when you know better, you can do better. And I now parent my next daughter in a very, very different way. And I'm more validating to her. Now, I am sorry that I was unable to validate my daughter at the time, my eldest, when she was a teenager, but I was unable to validate myself. Now, we can only give what we have, right? And I had an eating disorder. I was stuck in a lot of trauma at the time. And I was also a child. So I was, learning and growing. And your brain isn't even fully developed till you're 25 years old. This is why I would tell anybody not to have a child at 16 years old. I wouldn't recommend it. But I wouldn't change anything about it. My daughter probably would, and she probably has a lot of resentment towards me. But, we all have these lessons. There's something to learn from every relationship. And whether it be the parent-child relationship or it be me being the child with my parent, it doesn't matter. These lessons are always going to come up for us to learn. So if she didn't learn these lessons with me, she would definitely learn them with someone else. And that goes with my previous relationship as well. So it's got nothing to do with me anymore. So what she learns or doesn't learn is out of my control and nothing to do with me. So I'm grateful that I was able to take those lessons to my EMDR session and assert some boundaries, look at what it is that I was feeling. I actually felt weak. Funnily enough, I am a very strong person, and a lot of people look at me and consider me strong. They look at me like I'm physically strong because I've done bodybuilding and I do fitness pursuits and I achieve a lot of things. I've got trophies and medals, and these things appear strong, especially to people who aren't physically strong. They look at that as admirable and they see it as strong. Now, what I didn't know is in my subconscious, I actually felt weak. And so I built up my exterior to appear strong so that people would react to me and treat me as if I'm strong, and I can step into that strong person. I can give out the persona that I am strong. But this is where I felt like an imposter. When I was a manager, a senior fitness manager of 5 gyms, I felt like an imposter. I felt like, how can I manage my staff, my managers, if I'm unable to handle my daughter at home, my teenager? And I was really struggling with that relationship, and I really felt weak. So when we did the session today, I felt 10 out of 10 weak. And I said to her, this has been the relationship I've ever had in my whole entire life with my daughter, because it hurts so much, because I love her so much and there's so much emotions there. And I really would like us to repair it and heal and recover from it. Then you look at how you'd like to feel. And I'd like to feel strong and assertive and the grown up. And I think sometimes in that relationship, I wasn't the grown up. I was the child and she was the grown up. I feel that with an inconsistent parent, and I must have been an inconsistent parent, unaware of it at the time, you don't know where you stand because I didn't have boundaries. So boundaries and rules are actually good because they give security, and my child may have felt insecure. I tried to set boundaries, they didn't work. I'd pull back, try something else. And I just kept trying and learning and growing along the way. However, to the child, that appears inconsistent. So I understand how that child could then go, right, I'm the parent now. These are the rules. This is how I'm going to act. This is how I'm going to behave. And so there was that dynamic of who is the parent. I am an adult now. I make my own rules and I make my own decisions and I make informed decisions. And what I decide, she may not like. And there's nothing I can do about that.
But a lot of this session was actually brought on because of the Gabor Mate program. There's a program with Gabor, and he's with his son, and he made a retreat for parents and their adult children to go on, and it was triggering like hell. It was really triggering, and it was really comforting as well, because it showed me that, you know, there's a lot of parents that I know who act like everything's perfect and they've never had struggles with their children, especially when their children become adults and leave the home. It's like all the relationships suddenly are repaired, or they just don't speak to them. And I don't want that. I want to speak to my daughter and I want to have a relationship with her, and I actually want us to go to Japan together and have a really good time. Now, the way that she speaks to me sometimes, I don't enjoy the way she speaks to me. Now, maybe when I was living with her and we had that relationship, we didn't communicate very well, but we don't live together anymore. But we've avoided being together for this reason. There's a lot of emotions attached from the past. So in my EMDR session, I was able to let go of the feeling of 10 out of 10 weak, and I now feel strong. So I feel like we took away the negative cognition, and I now feel I am the adult. I can make decisions. I live my life how I live it. And if she doesn't like that, there's nothing I can do about that. I am not responsible for her feelings. I am not responsible for her happiness. I have to live my life for me. She is an adult. What I would like is for us to have a relationship, and I want us to have a relationship where we communicate well, and I can set boundaries around that. So what we were speaking about today, obviously boundaries are about yourself. They're not telling the other person not to do this or not to do that or not to speak to you in a certain way. They are, if you speak to me like this, I will do this. But you can also do it in a positive way. And she gave me this tool today because I actually run workshops on non-violent communication and how to communicate your feelings to other people. When it comes to my daughter, it's all out the window. And the therapist said the same thing to me. She agreed with me. She has an adult daughter as well, and she's a therapist, and she still sometimes gets it wrong with her daughter. So it doesn't mean that you're perfect. And we all have places to grow from. So this thing was called Dear Man. And it means describe your feelings, express them, assert them, be mindful, appear confident, negotiate. But also the positive side was the reinforcement. So reinforce. If you speak to me with kindness, I would like to spend more time together. I like that one because that's a positive outcome rather than a boundary, which is a bit like a bit of a threat. It can feel like a bit of a threat. And I've had that with my ex-partner. She would take some things as a threat. So put in a nice way, if you speak to me with kindness, I would like us to spend more time together. And if you can speak to me with kindness, I would like us to go to Japan together. I would like us to have a nice family holiday, me, you, and my other daughter, just us three. And I can also say, when I am spoken to like that, I feel disrespected, and I prefer it if you didn't speak to me like that. So, seems really simple, right? Let's see if it works. I want to have a nice holiday with my daughter, and I want that to be repair our relationship, that we can actually spend time together. And next week, seeing as I've just discovered I've got 2 more sessions, I am going to work on money. Now, it's funny because in this session, money came up as well, and I felt a little bit of parent guilt that I didn't have money and I wasn't able to provide her with certain things, and that I had an eating disorder and our fridge was empty and things like that. So money came up, and I'm looking forward to dealing with money issues. How powerful the EMDR sessions have been for me, where I've got a belief, a negative cognition, and I feel 10 out of 10 with it, and it's been switched around in one session. Just think how powerful it's going to be when I can deal with money. Right now, I've got no money, right? Let's see, when I change my money mindset, if I can change that I've tried it. I've had some NLP on money. Other I've done other work on money, and so far I've been stuck in this pattern. So let's see what happens. I'll see you on the other side.